Hello and welcome to Kelly's Anesthesia Tips. I have got great information for you for the last in-person anesthesia meeting of the year. There will be another virtual one, and I should say national meeting. We have one in the summer in conjunction with the Florida Society of Anesthesiologists, but that's mainly for Florida people. But I'll talk about that as well. So here we have the Advanced Institute for Anesthesia Billing and Practice Management, and this is one of the only ones left that does a breakdown of both coding and billing and practice management, and then general sessions where we get to share some of the information. If you have not registered, you can still register. You can also register on site. So if you have the time and the education budget, then well worth the money spent for this. I am a big believer that you get out so much more from these meetings than what you spend to attend them. So here we're going to go look at the conference information. I won't go over everything here. I'll just point out that it begins on Sunday with a boot camp. I'm excited for the boot camp because this is the first time that me, Amy Turner, and Doris Branker, who all met at anesthesia meetings, gets to do this joint session together. And I'm very excited because it's not just for beginners. It's not a 101. This is information, where the information comes from. If you've been in anesthesia for a long time, I still think you get good value out of attending the session. If you're a physician and you've never sat in on one of these, this is a great one for you as well, because you get a lot of background about where the rules and guidance come from. We share a hot sheet with the resources. We don't just give you our opinions, we give you the facts, and then we tell you where those facts come from. You've got a wealth of information in the room, not just from us three. We all three come at it from different perspectives too. And Amy has a clinical background, so she speaks a lot of it. Doris sounds so much like she has a clinical background that sometimes people think she's a doctor. She's not. She's Doris the coder, but she's fantastically great speaker, as is Amy, and I'm looking forward to working with them both. So if you weren't planning on coming to this, I highly recommend that you do. It's included in the cost of your registration. Monday starts the day, and we start at 7 a.m. with breakfast. And as I said, it's color-coded on the side here, so you know your general sessions, who the speakers are, what the topic is of discussion. So much good information, so much dynamic information, things that may change. Last year at the meeting, we had someone stand up from the audience and share information that none of us had because it was that brand spanking new. I don't think that they should ever stop doing these in-person meetings where we have the opportunity to speak face-to-face, where we have the opportunity to ask questions we might not necessarily want to ask on a recorded thing. You know, sometimes you think you might be doing something wrong, but you're not sure and you're just afraid to ask. So you'll come up to the end, at the end of the session, and talk to the speakers. That's an opportunity that you really don't get when it's on a virtual platform. So I am still grateful for these in-person meetings. So Dina is a new speaker for this one. She comes from a long line of great speakers from ACE, Auditing for Compliance and Education. If you've been to these meetings before, you may know that Tavana Slater's retired, Debbie Farmer's retired, Judy Blasek has retired, but Dina is from their organization and she's going to come speak there as well. I'm looking forward to meeting her. I see a Florida doctor, so I also know that they're very supportive at the University of Florida for our Florida Anesthesia Administrators Association. I'm going to share a little bit of that information with you as well. And then Amy Turner will be speaking again. Sheena Scott, long time in the anesthesia industry. She does consulting now, but she's a very good speaker as well. And we'll finish the day around 4:30 and go right to cocktails. That's my idea of a great day. So cocktails, hors d'oeuvres with the exhibitors. The passport contest is typically you get your little passport stamped by going around and saying hello to the vendors, and you must be present to win. So make sure if you get your card stamped, you come and do this as well. All right, Tuesday, another good day. As I said, I'm not going to go through these one by one because I'm going to give you these links, and I have other topics that I want to hit on. And then we'll finish on Wednesday, March the 1st, after Vicki Mykoviak, Dr. Greenfield, Hal Nelson. Hello, Hal. Good to see you back in this again. And then Doris will finish us up about 1:30. Now, I do want to talk about the anesthesia meetings and how we do not have as many of them to choose from now as we used to. But I also want to talk about how important anesthesia meetings are. So let's start with Dr. Mariano. Dr. Mariano, thank you. One, you were very kind to answer some questions that I had at the end of last year regarding PECS billing that showed up on your website just before I was going to attend that Dallas meeting. And I was able to share with a lot of the coders the information that you gave us that varied from how we had been reporting PECS blocks for a number of years. So thank you for that. Now, he's an anesthesiologist, and he looked at this from one perspective, and I looked at it from another. So let me point out a few things. I have a social presence with social media, but I also do the FAAA. And I'll talk about that when I get to my state society tabs. So the FAAA is the one that I happen to be on at this one, but I'm Kelly Dennis. So Dr. Mariano said, when picking your medical specialty or sub, it's important to find your people. It really is. You'll be seeing each other at conferences for the next 30-ish years. So true. Now, if you've heard me speak before, you know I've been in anesthesia. It says 39. I flip over to 40 years in August. But the reason this is my 27th year of anesthesia meetings is because I went 13 years without knowing that there were anesthesia meetings out there. So I was going to the Medicare meetings where you don't really find anyone who speaks anesthesia. And if you ask an anesthesia question, then they say, we'll get back with you. I can tell you at the anesthesia meetings, people who attend are fluent, and you do get a number. I have so many friends that are still my friends after 27 years of the meetings, even if they retire. I have retired anesthesia friends in my neighborhood. I get to hang out with Michelle Howell. She may have retired from anesthesia, but she's still my friends. Karen Bierstein, still my anesthesia friend. I get to hang out with her when I get to go to Denver or Colorado. It's always fun to see people that I have met over the years at these meetings. I hope one day I get to meet Dr. Mariano because I've been sharing his information for a long time. So I'm going to share these links in here too. First, I'm going to pop over to Dr. Mariano's because he's had, this is an update. He updated it in January of 2023, but he had initially updated it before the end of the year, at least regarding the PECS blocks, because I was able to gather some information on here. Don't want to make you dizzy. I'm just going to get down here. I'll use my Control F trick and get down there. I'll look for PECS block. There we go. So, some changes about the PECS block that he was able to explain and give a link for Consensus for Nomenclature of Facial Plane Blocks, because these facial plane blocks, as will be explained at the Las Vegas meeting, are a little bit different than our other peripheral nerve blocks. And the coding's going to be different. And it's, you know, we've been coding them one way for a number of years, but we're going to have to start looking at things a different way. And then you have to look at them from one way for some insurance companies and one way for another. But we'll talk about those kinds of things. That's why it's so important to be able to come to these meetings. All right, again, I will put this link on there as well, but thank you, Dr. Ed Mariano. You follow the sharing your knowledge thing very well. Now I want to hop back to state societies. I just did an update on this page on the 21st for a reason. I've got a whole YouTube on state societies because my soapbox for anesthesia meetings is they are getting few and far between, and we cannot blame it on COVID. I could actually prove that, but it's been dwindling for a number of years now. State specific, we used to have so many states that had organizational meetings once or twice a year. Some have them quarterly. Here, the COMA chapter that covers Ohio and Kentucky, they still meet quarterly, and kudos to them for that. Hope to see some of you guys out in Las Vegas, and if you're there, come say hi. Red states I have expressed an interest in starting one, and this was rather old. So if you're on here and you're not still interested in starting one, shoot me something so I can update it. Brown is because there were some that don't even have active links anymore. I'm thinking it's due to the consolidation of practices more so than COVID, but we don't have as many state-specific meetings as we used to. The nationals are fantastic. And when you go to the nationals, just make sure you keep in mind that you may have something in your state that overrides something, and we try to be careful about telling you things like that as well. So my updates are here. If you don't have a state organization, be a leader and start one. I believe in them tremendously. Our Florida Anesthesia Assembly or Association here, I'll hop over to it. It's the Florida Anesthesia Administrators Association, has been around since 2001. And a little history. Sheena Scott was supposed to be the first president of this new organization that replaced an old one from a lady that was leaving the specialty, but she had to step into another role and asked me to do it. So I did get to be the first president of this FAAA back in the day, and have devoted pretty much a lot of time since then trying to make sure that we still have the ability to meet as anesthesia coders, billers. We do have Dr. Colbert, been a long-time supporter of this organization as well. FSA has always been supportive of us meeting in conjunction with them at their annual meeting. I've not updated this information yet, but whereas the FSA meets from June 9th through 11th, we typically will meet on that Friday, June the 9th, and separately from the FSA, but we have a great group of speakers there as well. When I say that the opportunities for this type of education are dwindling, I'm going to show you how. So all these links will be on the comments, but back when, when I first started doing this, past speaking engagements, there were so many meetings to choose from. We had the AAA, we had the ASA practice management, we had the AAPC meetings that had anesthesia specific, but maybe only 1 or 2 sessions. We had the decision health meetings that were there were like 3 or 4 a year in all different places. We had the MGMA AAA, we had the ASA practice management, there were state association meetings, there were teleconferences, there were Coding Institute. Just scroll back and you'll see all of this. But somewhere around here, we started dwindling, and this was pre-COVID. We started dwindling down. Now, the AIA BPM has been around over 20 years now, you may remember. And for those of you who have been coming to that meeting for a number of years, you'll know you always get good content there. Here's where COVID affected 2020. But by then we had already gone from having so many meetings a year to just a few. And then you'll see that sometimes I supplement these with speaking at the virtual chapter meetings for AAPC chapters. But as far as having the ability to get together to cover practice management, to cover coding, to cover billing, to have a general session where we have shared content, there is only the AIA BPM that is doing this right now. This is the only meeting that is doing this. The ASA practice management does not have much in the way of billing and coding. Maybe one day that will change. I hope so. Decision Health has moved to a virtual, but they don't do so much practice management. They do more so the coding and billing. Fantastic meeting there as well. But I'm a big believer in education. I support it. I do my best to make sure that this specialty, where we are such a unique, anesthesia is a small world. There's not anyone else that can, start doing this and say, oh, I know how to do. No, you don't. There's not really a school for it. What they teach in the AAPC or the coding colleges that you go to are book stuff. And you just have to know that book stuff isn't necessarily what we have to follow to do the things that we need to do. But you will get all these resources when you come to these kind of meetings. So, long story short, hope to see you there. I will put all of these resources on here. I'll even give you Doris the Coders and a link to Amy Turner's as well, because Doris has some great YouTubes. Amy Turner has some great YouTubes, but there is nothing that replaces being in person at a meeting and having that ability to see your friends. I'd like to end with this. Be kind to one another and generous with your knowledge. Thank you to Dr. Ed Mariano on this one for being generous with your knowledge. And thank you to all the speakers that are going to be at the AIAB PM, because they will also be generous with your knowledge. And it's a great opportunity to talk to attorneys in the field, consultants in the field, coders in the field, etc. So hope to see you there.